Hello, and welcome to Ancestry Library Edition Part 2. My name is Kelly Cornwell, and I'm a librarian in special collections with the Fulton County Library System. And here we are at Ancestry database. I showed you how to get here in Part 1. So if you've forgotten, you can revisit the Part 1 video and remember how to get here. Today, I'm going to talk about primary sources and vital records. So we're going to visit a couple places outside of Ancestry today, as well as looking at some sources in Ancestry. So primary sources are things like land deeds, censuses, military records, naturalization records. Non-primary sources are things like letters, family Bibles, oral interviews. Both of these sources can be really good sources or really suspect. It just sort of depends. Remember, we talked last time about the census, sometimes misspelling names or getting a birth date slightly wrong. So some things I wanted to show you today was how to find some cool records, birth, marriage, and death records. So the first place I want to show you is a really neat featured collection called the U.S. Social Security Death Index, 1935 to 2014. And we usually call this the SSDI, Social Security Death Index. And it is supposed to be a resource for every person who in America who had a Social Security card and has passed on. So let's just type in a random name. I just sort of picked a random name here out of nowhere. So here is a bunch of our Alice's, and we can just look quickly at the record. So here we have Alice K. Worth. They tell you their Social Security number. I know, I think that's really odd, but they do. They tell you their birth date, when the Social Security card was issued, where it was issued, the last resident. So this would be the address they were receiving Social Security checks, and then their death date. So sometimes this is a great resource if you do not know exactly when somebody died or maybe their exact birth date, because you can usually find it here. And then, of course, it comes with all of these great other records on the side. I do want to show you Find a Grave because it's kind of interesting. So since it is right here, I'm going to click here. And so Find a Grave is lists a lot of the same things that Social Security Index does, but it's more about the burial. So you definitely have a place of death, a birth date, a death date, where the cemetery is. Sometimes you have a spouse. Sometimes there's a memorial, so you can visit the website. Sometimes people write nice things about the person, their memories and such. And you can also view the stone. And so I've had a lot of people use both of these resources, a lot of my patrons, to figure out exact birth dates, exact death dates. And sometimes they are simply looking for the cemetery because they have lost a place of the burial of a loved one, a relative that was in their past, and this is a great way to find it. So that is Find a Grave and the Birth, Marriage, and Death Records, SSDI. So let's look again at the birth, marriage, and death records, not just at U.S. Social Security Death Index. Also be aware there are a lot more England and Wales. So Ancestry is adding new information from other countries every day. So you have that as well. So let's do Alice Worth. Again, just in birth, marriage, and death. And let's see. Okay, so here's a marriage certificate from 1962. And it tells you, so this says sample, so they don't have an actual picture of it. So this is just the data that you have. But you get a father's name. You don't have a whole mother's name here, just the last name, but also a spouse's name. So Miss Alice Worth became Miss Alice Wood. And this is a great way to clarify someone's maiden name sometimes, or sometimes find out their name. Here's one. This is a birth index, so let's look at this. So this is another Alice Worth, who was born in 1938 in Massachusetts. This is all the reference numbers for the book. Let's view the page itself. And there is Worth Alice. And all of these numbers here correspond. That's why you had the information about the page. It corresponds to, this is an index, so it will correspond to the rest of the volumes to give you more information there. So as you can see that births and marriages here in Ancestry are usually indexes, only covering certain years, burial information that we have. So if you're wondering, how do I find someone's actual birth certificate, marriage certificate, or death certificate? Well, you go to your state's vital records. So here in Google, I just typed in Georgia Vital Records, and it looks different. Sometimes the state is not out of the Department of Public Health. Sometimes it says something slightly different, but every state has a vital records where you can request records. So let's look at Georgia's. So lots of information here. There are ways to request a vital record. You can do it online. You can write in. I think you can also telephone. These are the type of records: birth records, death records, marriage records, and paternity acknowledgement. So like a birth record, for example, these are examples of why someone would need a birth record. And these are the things that you need. You need to be the person named, a parent named on the birth certificate, a legal guardian, grandparents, a child or sibling, spouse, attorney, or a government official to request these records. You also need to know some information, and there is also a fee for these. I really want to show you the fee because if you think that you might be at any time ordering additional birth, marriage, death records, then you want to wait and try and gather up several and order them all at the same time, because you see, you can order one for $25, but say you're ordering 5 at a time, all of the additional ones are only $5. And so that is how you would find those vital records. And I wanted to show you one more thing before we move on here from our homepage. I want to go back to the digital library. Now, in Ancestry, there is a section called newspaper obits, but that section has a whole lot of newspapers in it, just really tons. So my recommendation is go back to the digital A to Z resources, scroll down, and click on America's obituaries and death notices. So you click there. I didn't mean to sound so excited when I said death notices. That voice inflection wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Okay. Sorry for the runaround. Put it in your library card number. And here is Newsbank. What you want to do is scroll down, click on America's Obituaries and Death Records. And then here are all of the newspapers. So you can click Georgia. Shows you all the newspapers in Georgia. So if you're looking for obituary and you know it was in the Albany Herald, you can just click there, or you can just put in a name. Let's see if our girl Alice was ever, nope. Let's try a Mary Smith. Because that's got to have a hit, right? Okay. So here's Hayes Smith. This is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Little obituary doesn't give you a whole lot of information here. Just really about the service. Let's go back and click on another one. Go. So some obituaries are just a wealth of information. They tell you the person's name, when they passed away, her parents' names, other family members and grandchildren, husbands, sister-in-laws, son-in-laws, granddaughters. So you can get a lot of information about a person from the obituary sometimes. And of course, the more famous a person was in their community, the more information is going to be in their obituary. So that is all for part 2. And I will show you some more super cool things in Ancestry Library Edition when we do part 3 soon. See you then.